Welcome back to Mia's Pizza Parlor, mathematicians. I hope you've been practicing because we've got some dough to flip and pizzas to bake. What? What do you mean we're not making pizza today? Your restaurant has world-famous dessert too? I love cannoli. Let's get baking. This is Mia's cannoli recipe. It requires quite a few ingredients with measurements that are mixed numbers. Before we start adding these together and mixing things up, we should probably freshen up on our adding and subtracting mixed number skills. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to add and subtract mixed numbers with like and unlike denominators. You'll also be able to record your answers in their simplest form. Who knows, by the time we're done, you might just be a pro at math and baking. Before we dive into baking cannoli, let's preheat the oven and our brains with some warm-up problems. 2/3 plus 1/4 and 9/10 minus 4/10. Pause here to solve and we'll check your work when you're done. Two-thirds and 1/4 need a common denominator. The LCM of 3 and 4 is 12, so we'll need to change each of these fractions to equivalent fractions with denominators of 12. If we multiply the top and bottom of 2/3 by 4, we get 8/12. And if we multiply the top and bottom of 1/4 by 3, we get 3/12. Now we have 8/12 plus 3/12, which equals 11/12. And this is already in simplest form, so we're done. 9/10 and 4/10 already have a common denominator, so we can go straight to subtracting. 9/10 minus 4/10 equals 5/10. This one needs to be simplified. The GCF of 5 and 10 is 5, so we'll divide the numerator and denominator by 5 to give us our final answer of 1/2. Good job! Now let's get mixing. To make the filling for Mia's cannoli, we need 2 1/3 cups of ricotta cheese, 1 1/2 cups of powdered sugar, and 3/4 of a cup of chocolate chips. Let's calculate how much total cannoli filling this will make. It's helpful to stack mixed numbers vertically when adding and subtracting. We start by adding up the fractions of this equation, but they need to have common denominators. Based on the multiples of these numbers, their LCM and common denominator is 12. Pause here while you convert each fraction to have a denominator of 12. Now we can add them up starting with the fractions. 4/12 plus 6/12 plus 9/12 equals 19/12. And 2 plus 1 equals 3. Is 3 and 19/12 in simplest form? The fraction part of this mixed number is an improper fraction. Fractions should represent a part of a whole, not more than the whole, which is why this fraction is called improper. We need to regroup the whole from this improper fraction and add it into the 3 of our mixed number. We can find out how many whole numbers are in this improper fraction by converting it into a mixed number. 12 goes into 19 one time, with 7/12 left over. 19/12 can now be written as 1 7/12. Adding that 1 to our whole number gives us our final answer, 4 7/12 cups of cannoli filling. I'll put the filling in the refrigerator to cool while we start on the cannoli shells. I got a little carried away and I started dumping in flour before consulting the recipe. I poured 2.5 cups of flour into this bowl, but the recipe says we only need 1 3/4 cups of flour. Can you help me figure out how much flour I need to remove? We'll need to subtract 2 1/2 minus 1 3/4. In order to subtract these mixed numbers, the fractions need a common denominator. Pause here while you convert these fractions into fractions with common denominators. Four is the LCM of 2 and 4, so 1/2 can be converted into 2/4. Now we need to subtract 2/4 minus 3/4. We can't take away 3/4 if we only have 2/4. Looks like we'll need to regroup. Regrouping means changing the way an amount is grouped while keeping the total value the same. 2 2/4 is the same thing as 2 plus 2/4. Then this 2 can be regrouped into 1 plus 1. In order to subtract, I need the numerator of this fraction to be larger. So how can I regroup this 1 to make the fraction larger? I can use a trusty fraction of 1. A fraction of 1 is any fraction in which the numerator and denominator are the same. So it's equal to 1. Let's change this 1 into a fraction of 1. We'll use 4/4 so we can easily add it to 2/4. Now if I add these up, my regrouped mixed number becomes 1 6/4. Now that we've regrouped, we can finish our subtraction. 6/4 minus 3/4 equals 3/4. And 1 minus 1 equals 0, so our final answer is just 3/4. So I just need to remove 3/4 cups of flour from this mixing bowl and our cannoli shells are saved. Let's do some practice while the cannoli bake. Mia made 5 2/3 trays of cannoli on Monday and 3 1/3 trays on Tuesday. Then Mia sold 4.5 trays of cannoli. How many trays of cannoli does Mia have left? First, we need to add up how many trays of cannoli Mia made. Pause here while you solve this in your guided notes. These fractions already have a common denominator, so we could just start adding. 2/3 plus 1/3 equals 3/3, and 5 plus 3 equals 8. Hey, a fraction of 1. Let's simplify this by regrouping the fraction and adding it to our whole number. Mia had 9 trays of cannoli. Then she sold 4.5 trays. To find out how many are left, we'll need to subtract 9 minus 4 1/2. There's no fraction here to subtract from, but remember, you can use a fraction of 1 to regroup. Pause here and solve in your guided notes. We'll need to regroup a 1 from this whole number and then change it into a fraction of 1 so that we can subtract. 2/2 minus 1/2 equals 1/2. And 8 minus 4 equals 4. Mia had 4.5 trays of cannoli left on Tuesday. Awesome work! Thanks to your hard work today, I learned to always read the recipe first. And you learned to stack mixed numbers vertically to add or subtract them. That mixed numbers can be regrouped for subtraction, and that regrouping can be used to simplify fractions. That was a delightful baking session. And these cannoli look so good. Be sure to complete the practice questions and extension activities so you can keep baking and calculating. Keep crunching that cannoli. I mean those numbers, mathematicians, and I'll see you next time.